and in return, you have what we call emotional intelligence. And he said, approximately 85% of your capabilities at work depends on your emotional intelligence. See, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you some examples. If I'm going to ask you a question, I'm going to say, how much of your education are you implementing at work?
10%.
10%. 10%. So not only you, most of those educated people who have degrees implement like 5 to 10%, 15% of their education. Technically, they know the needs. And they have a certain IQ to accept and absorb whatever is being taught to them. So in return, you need to have emotional intelligence because you're dealing with people. And the most difficult part in life, or the most difficult thing in life, is when you deal with people. Because each person has a different fingerprint. And the fingerprint, it means different personality, different approach to things, different thinking. And then, he said at the beginning, emotional intelligence is not only being nice. Correct? He said that emotional intelligence sometimes is being tough, blunt, which means what? Saying things that the other person do not want to hear, but saying it in a way that the other person might accept it. And then he said he categorized the 5 skills needed, and he spoke about the relationship with the brains, and he said that emotional intelligence can be improved by experience, correct? So he said that most people are doing trainings and it's a waste of time. Huh? It's true, in a way, because sometimes we don't want to change our characteristics. We don't want to change our habits. So if you go to a communication skills course, you might take the course, but you wouldn't implement it because this is you. But if you go to an emotional intelligence course like this course, you would accept everything else that comes later. Like if you go to a communication skills course later, you would accept these things that are being said by the trainer because these are life experiences. He spoke about the 3 things, IQ, technical, and emotional intelligence. And they did a survey. They found out that the stars in companies, the performers in the companies, have high emotional intelligence awareness. That's what he said, right? And then people leave, he said people leave bad bosses. They don't leave companies. Can you explain that? Why do you think people leave bad bosses and not bad companies?
Because of the behavior emotional.
Yes, because a bad boss will make the company bad.
Bad.
Correct?
You cannot communicate the good communication with the laborers and everybody.
Yes. So, and then he said the huge difference in earnings between companies that use emotional intelligence as a benchmark are higher than those who don't have emotional intelligence benchmark. As an example, you might be smart, you might be technically well, but you do not know how to communicate with people. Then how can you be a boss? How can you work? Not possible. So that's why he said the stars in companies have high emotional intelligence scores. And then he said you have to want to be better. You have to want to be a better person, to change yourself. And he said it takes time. It doesn't take a day or 2 with this course only. Whatever you learn from this course, you should implement. And it will take you at least 6 to 7 to 8 months and 10 months. Because this is, you're fighting against something you have for years. It's in your blood. You're fighting against it. You want to change your character. You want to become a better person. Now I'm going to say a quote. Arabs are going to help me, and then we're going to translate it. المؤمنون جسد واحد صح؟ إذا هاير
اشتكى منه عضوا
اشتكى منه عضو تداعت له سائر الأعضاء, which means let's change this from being a religious saying and change it into a company saying. A company is a body, one body. Each part of this body, each limb is responsible in doing something. You have the heart, you have the brain, you have the hands, you have the fingers, you have the foot. Fingers are, let's consider them the leaders, the enablers. The brains, the CEO. The heart, the directors. Departments. Head of departments and managers. I'm not going to talk about, no, what don't smile.
Yes, very, I'm waiting
I'm
for you.
defending the CEO where he stands.
No comment.
So, and then it says in the quote that we spoke, if one part is hurt, the entire body is affected. If one part is hurt, imagine you cut your finger, you will feel you cut your finger. You will feel pain and it will affect your entire body, right? In a company, it's the same thing. Every single part of the company, every single department in the company should be healthy. Otherwise, you will not perform correctly. And what do you need for? You need emotional intelligence. What's the role of the heart? And see, this quote is a very interesting quote. Profound quote. What's the role of the heart? The role of the heart is pumping blood. So you have to have a balance between your heart and your brain. We spoke about it yesterday. You have to have a balance, correct? So this balance is what? Emotional intelligence is using your emotions smartly. Using your emotions. And the heart is doing what? Is pumping blood to all these limbs. Equally. Now imagine if I cut a vein to this finger, would it work? So what it mean? What does this mean? It means that I'm not treating, or the manager is not treating this limb correctly, so this limb will not work correctly, and the entire body will be affected. And then he said, sometimes they choose bad bosses on purpose. And he gave an example of General Electric. General Electric. Why? And he called it the Peter Principle. Because they will use them for dirty things. Dirty things. Filtering people. Yalla, go out, being tough. And then he gave the example, and after 2 years he found out he finished. He started using emotional intelligence as a benchmark. And he said, no more bullying in my company. No more bullying. And he said, those bullies are going to be thrown out. But he threw them out in a good manner. That's why he said 97% of those who were left the company said it's an excellent company to work in. Correct? And the other 3% said otherwise. Now, why did they say so? Why did they say it's a good company to work in? Because the way they were laid off the job, it's not like, and he gave another example. He said another company came to its employees and said, in a week we're going to close the company. Imagine NADEC comes, in a week we're going to close the company. What happens to you? What will happen to you?
Worried.
Correct? Suicide.
Suicide.
No, some of them will kill themselves. That's because that's the only thing, that's the only income they have. No, I'm just kidding. For the video. So the idea is, there's a big difference between a company that is purely technically based on intelligence and a company that is using the three principles. Now, and then he said, how you let people matters. Why? How you let people go in, how you lay people. It matters. Why?
Because they, after out of company, they will make impression for this company if it's good or not.
Because he said it matters for those people who are staying in the company.
Huh?
How you lay people matters for those people who are staying in the company. Because if I'm going to be laid off, they give me all what they owe me. They said, you know what, thank you very much. It's the way you lay people that matters to the others. When you see that, you say this is a great company. You know, they did everything and they laid him off after many mistakes he did, rather than taking him and throwing him out. And then he said, leaders are warm, open to bad as well as good news, both. And he gave a very good example. Well, I hope this is not happening with NADEC. He said a leader or those people that are working under managers, if the manager is aggressive, automatically his subordinates are going to mirror him.